In this video, I'm going to describe the trouser pocket, the side seam trouser pocket, the variations in cut and construction. Here we have three styles of trouser pocket. This is the on-seam, side seam trouser pocket. It follows or mirrors the side seam of the trousers and works that way. This is what's called the slanted trouser pocket because the opening itself on the front of the trousers, the opening is cut at an angle or a slant, and it opens that way. And then this is known as the Western style trouser pocket. It is similar to like on a pair of Levi's or a Western cut suit. That's when you would use this sort of trouser pocket. This one has an extra little flare added here. It's bagged out just around the corner for a little bit of extra detail here. That's kind of nice too. What's interesting about this is that they beautifully matched the stripe up and down on this pocket. So that's a very nicely made, nicely constructed Western style pocket. On this one, when it is closed and goes around the curve of the hip, you can see that it's been cut so that the stripe is continuous up onto this, from the leg up onto this pocket facing piece. So that's very nice construction. And then this is just a really nice, clean finished on the seam construction. So those are the three different styles, the on the seam, the slanted, and then the Western style. This is a teaching sample that I use. It represents half of a pair of pants. That would be the front. This is the front curve. Here is the side seam pocket, and then the back of the pants here, trousers I mean. But what I want to show you is that regardless of whether it's an on the seam cut, a slanted cut, or a Western cut, there are the same pieces, just different shapes, but the concept of cutting and building the pocket is as follows. On the inside, you have the front pocket bag, and this is cut out of poly cotton or cotton fabric. The back pocket bag, which is cut out of poly cotton or cotton fabric. And then the facing. The facing, I like to serge and then just zigzag flatline that onto the back pocket bag. And what that does, when this is all constructed, when the bag is actually stitched together, when the actor or gentleman moves or puts his hands in and takes them out or sits, the facing provides that coverage of the pocketing so that the fashion fabric is continuous. So regardless of the style of pocket, you have the front pocketing, the back pocketing, onto which goes the facing piece. So let's break that down and look at patterns and different cuts for these three styles. So for the on-seam, side seam pocket, let's look at the pattern and that construction method. Again, here is the trouser front, and the front of that opening, pocket opening, gets bagged out with a piece of the pocketing, and then the back pocketing has the facing on it. So here are the pattern pieces. This is the cotton pocket bag, and you would cut 4 of them because the front shape is exactly the same mirror image of the back shape. So we can cut 4 of these, 2 for the right pocket and 2 for the left pocket. And then out of the wool, we need to cut that facing piece. And that sits here. I like to serge the wool, as you can see here, and then zigzag that on for a flat look. Some people like to just turn the wool under, but that gives you too layers of wool there, and it can, depending on your fabric, set up a ridge or a lump when you do that final press. So I like to keep it as flat as possible. I carry this pocketing up to the waist seam. This is for a pair of high-waisted or Hollywood waisted pants. But I like to carry that pocketing up to the waist seam where it either gets caught in the waist seam when you set the waistband on, or in the facing on a pair of Hollywood pants. And what that does is provides, fixes the bag, so when the gentleman puts his hand in, it provides suspension for whatever he's carrying down here. Now this front corner should be rounded. If it is indeed a true corner, he can, whatever it is that he's getting in there, it can get stuck in the corner and he'll fumble around, and when we're building for theater, or even just for real life, the rounded corner here provides a nice, easy place to get your car keys or the key or whatever that is, that prop. So those are the pieces. Cotton pocket bag, cut 4 of those because the front and the back are the mirror images. Cut 2 of these of wool. One layer of wool gets stitched to one bag, and then use the other one for the other edge, other side of the bag rather. Here's a little trick. When you are stitching the pocketing onto the front pocket opening, stitch it on, not exactly on the side seam, stitch it offset into the seam allowance, just 1/4 of an inch. Then when you press that seam open, you're rolling the wool just that 1/4 of an inch, and eventually you would top stitch to firm up that edge. But what that does, again, is keeps that pocketing from creeping out when a gentleman sits down and pocket gapes a little bit like this. We have coverage with the wool. To construct the slanted side seam pocket, it's the same 3 pieces. It's 2 pieces of cotton pocketing, and then this facing piece that's cut deep enough that there's enough overlap here so that when the gentleman sits and this gapes open a little bit, there's no revealing of that pocketing inside there. So that's slanted pocket. And again, if you are cutting stripes or plaids, since this facing is revealed quite a bit here, you need to take into consideration matching that stripe or matching that plaid. So here on this teaching sample, it shows the front of the trouser, and here is the piece of pocketing that just bags out that edge. And you can see that's been rolled to the inside and understitched. I also often, actually almost always, put some twill tape in here, just on that seam, as a stay tape. And that's because this slanted angle is on a slight bias, and we don't want that stretching out with use. So I reinforce that when I stitch the pocketing onto the front. I just stitch some 1/4 inch twill tape or tailor's tape in there, and then understitch that or top stitch that to provide a nice clean finished look here. The other part is the second piece of pocket bag here with, again, the facing zigzagged or flatted onto that. I've thread marked here the placement line where the pocket opening starts. Here it's represented by this bar tack, and then up here where the angle lines up onto the facing. If you don't have that accurately marked and stitch that on accurately, you can change the fit of your trousers by either getting it in the wrong place and adding to the waist, and then you'll wonder why they don't fit, or the other way and wonder again why they don't fit. When you're stitching the bag part, getting the leg out of the way, and stitching the bag part, you don't want to catch this seam allowance into the side seam of the wool. That creates a bulky seam there, so make sure you stitch the out seam of your wool leg separate from this seam on your pocket bag. Let's look at the paper pattern that represents those pieces, the bag, the other bag, and then the pocket, the facing piece. The bag for the front needs to mirror the slant of the angled, slanted opening. So this would be the cotton pocket bag, and we would cut 2 of those. This would be the cotton pocket bag for the back. We would cut 2 of those. And then this is this angled piece that is the facing, and we would cut that out of the wool and flatline that onto our pocket bag. And then we could begin constructing. There are, of course, many variations on how to cut pockets. For example, this side seam pocket that I just described, I had you cut the front bag and the back bag mirror images, the same shape, and I had you cut them separately. There's another method of doing that where, here's another teaching sample, and here is the inside of that, where you cut the bag, instead of in 2 pieces, you cut it all in one. But it's the same concept. We have this edge stitched to the seam allowance, offset just a little bit here, and then this is the back bag. It's cut on a fold, and we bring this over and stitch it to the other seam allowance, and it's all in one. It just eliminates one seam here, and then what I would do is I would stitch this in a curve here and then close up the bag that way. So that's just another variation in how to cut the pocket bag. For the Western style pocket, the pocket facing is bigger because we are cutting away more of the trouser front and revealing more of that. So that's a difference between this and the other 2 pockets we just discussed. Other than that, it's the same as it ever was. We have a pocket bag on the front, we have a pocket bag with the facing on it, and then we put them all together. Let's look at this teaching sample. So here is the curve of that Western pocket, like on the front of a pair of jeans. And we have one pocketing piece that bags out, clean finishes that opening, and then the other pocketing piece with the facing flatlined on it, and then those marks, notches, are thread marked so that we know to get the pocket placed correctly on that, so we don't change the shape of the trouser. And here again, you'll want to keep the wool trouser away from the bag when you stitch that. Lift up the leg. This pocketing goes all the way to center front. There are, of course, variations on how you can cut all this, and this is one of them. It's a nice way to just have a smooth line, clean finished, all the way over to what would then become the fly zipper here. It's just a variation. It's kind of nice, and you can elect to do that if you like. So next, let's look at what those patterning pieces would look like. So here is the pattern for the trouser front, and here's the waist, center front, side seam, and here's that Western style pocket. To bag that out, we would need to cut 2 of this cotton pocket bag in order to bag out this curved line. So we would cut 2 of those. And then for the back of the pocket bag, the pocketing with the facing on there. It's the same concept as all the others. So here's the pocket bag that mirrors the shape goes all the way to the waist, to the side seam, and then here is the pattern for the wool facing that would sit there.